What is up, my friends? Welcome back to another exciting episode of Ben and Griff Talk About Lures.
I like it.
What's up, dude?
What's up? What's up?
Today we are going to break down our 5 favorite baits that typically work best for us in the month of February. So, you ready to talk about some tackle?
Yeah, let's
All
talk
right,
about
if you
it.
guys are ready, let's do it. Welcome to the Hookup Tackle. The Hookup Tackle is the world's largest showcase of Megabass products, featuring baits and colors not found at any other dealer. The Hookup also offers a wide display of OSP, Evergreen, Deps, Lucky Craft, Jackal, and many more. The Hookup Tackle is owned and operated by family, is staffed by guides and verified tackle nerds who love helping anglers elevate their craft. If you're in the Phoenix area, we'd love to have you stop by our showroom and check out the wonderful world of Megabass and the Hookup for yourself. If you shop online, there are almost 10,000 SKUs of Megabass products alone, with hundreds of other companies and new products being added daily. So next time you're looking for that hard-to-find bait, that color your fish have never seen before, or maybe you just want to elevate your game, look at thehookuptackle.com. All right, welcome back, my friends. I am Ben with the Hookup Tackle, aka the Tackle Otaku on Instagram, being joined by my buddy G Sticks B Poke. Bespoke. And of course, we are joined by our buddy Jeffrey the King. We're the Hookup Tackle USA. So today we're going to talk about February fishing. So we kind of scoured our minds. It was really dangerous in there. And the store to kind of break this down into what we would consider our 5 favorite baits for February fishing. So how did you break this down? I know you have a simpler mind than me. What went through your head in determining your 5 faves?
It's pretty much when February comes, that means that the pre-spawn is about to be on, so it's time to have more fun and be less technical about stuff. Because fish are going to eat. So I'm trying to have the most fun possible starting now. I don't have to be technical. I don't have to get crazy with it. So that's what my stuff's all about.
So let me ask you a question, because I was helping a customer with this, and as I was talking, I was kind of convincing myself of something very similar, right?
Yeah.
So like we were happening to be talking about topwater, and I was telling him, like, dude, you start early so that the second it happens, you're ready.
Yep.
So you don't miss it. Is that kind of what you're thinking on the fun spectrum too? Like, even if it's maybe a little early,
Yeah.
you're going to start, and so that way as soon as it happens, you're ready?
Yeah, you want to be there, and you want to be there as soon as it goes down so you can get those first bites. Like, everybody else is still trying to, fish slow, trying to do that winter stuff. But, I mean, they're going to move, and they're going to start, like, any second.
Yeah.
So you want to be there when it happens, right?
So we have a pretty unique state,
Yeah.
right? In that, a lot of people they're cussing at us right now. That
Yeah.
we're even talking about having fun,
Yeah.
right? And they're looking at like ice and snow and all these stupid things. But hey,
Yeah.
we all make decisions, right? So, but Arizona is kind of a cool place because we literally have places like where you fish, where the fish are going to start transitioning into spawn here at some point this month, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to be in pre-spawn, spawn, like on the rivers that you fish, the Colorado River waters. Sometimes if we get lucky, they can pop. And then we have lakes like Lake Pleasant that's like cold and deep, and it takes it a really long time to transition into spawn. So we're still like stone cold winter there. So we get to see a lot of diversity as far as techniques and how we go about doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's funny when I look at the list of our stuff, I think we could probably lay this stuff out on a table anywhere and nobody would say that this is like wintertime stuff.
Nobody.
But even if I'm going to Pleasant where it sucks, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is still the same stuff I'm doing, and we've been having conversations all day. Like, I've been talking to CJ, and like, everybody might be in 60 feet, but dude, you could still run bank and there's still something there.
Yeah.
Right? So I would rather go and have a good time like what you're talking about.
I can't say this enough. We're not tournament guys. We just out there to have a good time, right?
Yep.
So why bore yourself on the water? Go out and have a good time.
Right.
That's what
Yeah.
it's all
And
about.
if you can catch fish and take some of this and apply it, that's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah.
All right. So why don't you start? Where do you want me to start? What do you want me to hand you? And what do you want to talk about first, sir?
Let's talk about the gong.
Okay. Shocker that this is in your list of favorite baits.
That's
so,
ridiculous.
yeah, the fact that this is one of your
is
favorite baits to throw in
ridiculous.
any month is ridiculous, but have at it, guy.
All right. So the Gong Junior is going to be the bait that I start throwing pretty heavily in February. So it's a wake bait, right?
Mm-hmm.
The fish are starting to move up. I'm not fishing in more than like 4 feet of water, and the water's warm.
Okay.
So we can get this bait out there. We can fish it in the tree lanes. We can fish it on top of rock piles, and they're gonna eat it.
So you like the junior more than the full size this time of the year?
This time of the year, the junior is the perfect size.
Okay. Ooh, almost a sale on that one.
So the junior is significantly smaller than the
is.
full-size gong.
Yep.
And the blade is going to be less aggressive.
Okay.
So if you've ever used a gong and you're cranking it in, it's loud.
Yep.
So the gong junior is definitely going to be a little bit more subtle. It's not going to be as loud, but it's going to create a ton of commotion and have that flash with that, I don't know, that plop and grind sound in the back of it. And you know, the fish are going to eat it. I don't know if it's more of they want to eat it or they want to kill it and get it out of there because they're trying to do something, but I mean, it gets big.
So is there a particular time when you use the gong to target these fish? Like, do you find that it works best when they're starting to transition shallow or after they're already shallow? Or is there any feedback that you're looking for that the fish are giving you to when you know, like, okay, it's gong time?
So the river that I fish in, there's different ponds separated by rapids. If I can throw this and they're hitting it as soon as it leaves the rapids, that means they're about to be full on. So I'm not having to throw it in the moving water. That means they're going in shallow. They're starting their spawn process, and then they're going to start eating everything that I throw in there.
So you use this kind of as a tool then to test the aggressiveness of the fish at times?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right, cool. Let's talk about the gong really quick, and because I get tons of questions now that you've kind of made the gong a thing, right? Yeah. So the gong is obviously a super dope lure from Megabass. The only monkey-shaped wake bait I'm familiar with. Do you know any other ones, Jeff?
No.
Yeah. So this is one of those baits that is difficult for the company to produce, just a hard to make bait. So it's not on the immediate roster. They're so busy and at full capacity at the factory that it's not queued to be done.
Yeah.
So, you know, unfortunately, it's really limited in supply, limited in color runs, but, you know, I don't know that any of those things are, like, I don't know how important color is on a gong. I think color is super cool and super fun, but the colors that are out are shaddy enough or bait fishy enough, I would say, don't you?
Yeah, dude. So the color's not going to make a huge difference. Of course, you know, darker colors and lighter colors, like shades, will make a bigger difference. But, I mean, the fun's all in the fact that it's a fucking gorilla, right? Like, who catches a fish with a gorilla?
Right. You catch quite a few.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you're not throwing it, and if you're throwing and you're not having a good time, you got to reevaluate
Something
your
is
life.
wrong. Yeah.
Right?
There you go. Quote of the day. End of the video right there. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what this bait's all about, right? It was made for a purpose, for the year of the monkey.
Yep.
But, I mean, I feel like they made an amazing bait. Besides being shaped like a gorilla,
Yeah.
it's an amazing wake bait. The function of the bait is so sick.
Yeah.
So,
That's a good place to start, sir.
Yeah.
All right, well done. All right, I'm going to go more normal, Jeff.
Thank you. Something
Yeah.
practical.
Yeah, nothing that
Okay.
looks like a pet.
Thank you.
All
our
right.
next one's pretty normal.
So, you know, I don't think anything you have in this pile is normal. But that's what we expect from you. All right, so I'm a huge fan of jerkbaits, right? And we talk about jerkbaits a lot. So this is the time of the year that, you know, obviously a jerkbait is going to play, but typically when I know those fish are moving up to pre-spawn, it changes a little bit for me and I do a little bit of a tweak. So this is the time of the year for me that I'm transitioning kind of out of suspending jerkbaits and more into a floating jerkbait. Now, I may still throw a suspending jerkbait. Every day you have to reevaluate and take it for what the universe is giving you, right? If I roll up to a lake and it's blowing 30 miles an hour, like that day that you just posted, Jeff, where you have a 14-foot boat and 18-foot waves,
Yeah,
right?
beautiful.
Like, I'm throwing a suspending jerkbait. But
You're actually going fishing in that?
probably not. Right, I'm probably going to the taco shop. I'll watch you from the dock. But if I'm at a lake and it's your typical kind of late winter, early spring day where it's relatively calm, the sun's coming up, the water is warming, that's when a floating jerkbait can really outshine a suspending jerkbait. Now, when I grew up, I was watching guys like Roland Martin, Doug Hannon, right? These dudes in Florida in the early 80s that were jacking them on Rapala floating minnows.
Yeah.
And to me, like I was thinking about this morning, we all used to spend so much time working the cadence of the jerkbait back then to get it exactly right. So the whole key to a floating jerkbait is, unlike a typical suspending jerkbait that you're gonna twitch and have just like kill there, a floating jerkbait will allow you to work it the same, but then it obviously is gonna float back up. And if you get the timing right, a couple of advantages that happen. One, you can time it to where it floats back up, and just before it hits the surface, you can twitch it again and it will create little kind of rings on the surface. So this guy, if this is the surface, you can kind of twitch this down below and then let it kind of pause, and then if you get your timing right, just before it gets to the top again, you can jerk it back down and it will create these little like rings on the surface, a lot like a really cold baitfish would, or a cold bluegill that's kind of moving and still trying to soak up that sun. And we used to take these baits and work on our cadence the same way that, you know, Jeff or CJ or one of these swim bait guys do a lot with their glide baits, right? The other thing that a floating jerkbait does for you is it allows you to work really, really shallow flats. And this time of the year, if you guys live in areas where you get dark bottoms, whether it's, you know, a dark mud bottom, a black bottom, dark grass, all of that is going to absorb that heat a lot better than like a deeper rocky shoreline will. And those fish will push really, really shallow to absorb that heat, and they'll follow that heat. And you can fish a floating jerkbait much shallower than you can a suspending jerkbait. You can get it into the grass and pause, and it'll actually lift up so that you can just keep ticking the grass and lift up and keep ticking and lift up without it bogging down into that cover and dragging around. So there are several good floating jerkbaits on the market. This is the one that typically lives on my rod all the time. This is the OSP Varuna, but in a floating version. Megabass used to make a high float, 110. They stopped making it. A lot of companies don't make floating jerkbaits anymore because they don't have that same allure the sex appeal as a suspending jerkbait. But it's a lot like what Jeff and I talk about with swim baits. Like, guys want a slow sinking, so you just tie it on and it works. But if you wanted to make a floater a very slow sink or even a suspend, it's so easy to just cut strips and alter it. But really, you know, the float is what gives this guy the appeal. So this is usually where I go. If you guys are fishing, you know, smaller bodies of water, you know, maybe they're really picky on bait, you can also do the same thing with a shad profile bait. This is a High Cut DR from OSP, but the floating version instead of the suspending version. The same principles apply here. You may just need to adjust your stroke. So where the Varuna is going to be more of an actual twitch, right, an actual jerk, the High Cut may be more of a sweep. So something that maybe you're just kind of pulling through the water and having go down and then kind of floating back up. But same thing, if you time it right on that float, if you can move it just before it gets to the surface, it'll create these little, very finessey little rings that's just super lifelike. So for me, that's a great place to start. It can cover water fast, really effective. So there's number one.
All right.
All right, what do you got, guy?
So I'm going to stay with top water.
Okay.
All right.
You want this goofiness?
That's the one I want.
Okay.
All right.
Here you go, sir.
So,
number 2 of ridiculous.
Of amazingness. You spelled that wrong.
Oh, got it.
There it goes. So, I'm going to stay with top water, and then I'm going to go with the slow moving top water. The I Wing is the perfect one for me. I really like this one because of the sound that it makes compared to the other crawlers.
Okay.
And I can move this one extremely slow and still get a sound out of it. So the faster you move this, the less knocking you get and the more bubbling you get.
Interesting.
Right? So I can cast it out there and just let the wind move it, and it's gonna knock. It's gonna create like a bubble, like a ring, and it's gonna have that profile of a fish that has no clue what it's doing or dying or something like that. And it's gonna get fucking smashed.
Do you find that you get bit on the crawler more on a slow pace than a fast pace?
So depending on what crawler I'm using, but I really like to only use the ones that the slow pace that you can move really slow.
So it's interesting. We talk about happy accidents around here a
Yeah.
lot, and what you're hearing inside of the I Wing is an actual rudder,
Yeah.
right? And it's got a tungsten lead ball on the back of it that's slapping back and forth on the bait. The rudder was actually designed in this bait so that you could burn it. So
Really?
most crawlers, if you try to burn it, they spin. Like they have a really sweet spot. Megabass made this so you could work it super fast. It just ends up happening that the happy accident is that rudder is this amazing knock
Yeah.
at slow speeds, and you're finding that maybe even more effective than at a high speed.
Yeah, so we all know the Megabass and the I baits, right?
Mhm.
The I Wing, the I Wake, the I Loud. They all have that crazy knock in there.
Yep.
And it's a sound that no matter when you're fishing, you can fish this bait all day long. The fish will find it. And again, like I don't know if they want to eat it or they just want it out of there, but they hit it and they hit it violently every single time. It's never a soft takedown. It's just pure violence, and it's amazing.
I feel like Griff might have more fun than me fishing
There,
in his bait choices.
that might be possible.
Yeah. Dang it. Well, this one's a pretty fun one too for
Okay.
me. So I'm a huge fan of reaction baits and things that I can fish fast.
Okay.
And I absolutely love a chatterbait when the fish move up, but this has kind of become one that I can't say that I like it more than a jackhammer, but it's one that definitely lends itself to a little more fun, I would say, than a jackhammer.
Yeah.
And I know you use this one a lot.
This
too.
is it's an amazing bait. It's
It
fun.
is, yeah.
It's super fun.
So I feel like jackhammer steals a lot of chatterbait fame, love, whatever you want to call it, and for good reason. I definitely think it's the best chatterbait, vibe jig, whatever you want to call it, on the market. But where a jackhammer kind of falls a little short, I guess, is when you need to fish it at a quick pace, at a fast pace, right?
Yeah.
Like it definitely has a sweet spot or it starts to roll over, and you can definitely tweak trailers and do different things to kind of help keel it. But where the Bladewaker really comes into play is it allows you to fish it really, really fast. This is a bait from Tekkel. I pulled out 3 colors because basically these are the colors that I use all the time. So I would say white and green pumpkin are kind of my main keys, and then I'll mix in fire crawl when I'm fishing an area where the fish are just starting to move up and they're triggered by red. And a lot of bodies of water, if you're not throwing red, you're not getting bit. Other bodies of water, it doesn't really matter that much. But the Bladewaker just has a little bit different shaped blade on the front of it that allows this bait, you can literally burn it on the surface. You can use it as a topwater, like what you're talking about. You can use it as a wake. You can fish it slowly, but it's just a great one for fishing high in the column. Tekkel's redesigned this. We've talked about this in some other videos, but they've redesigned the hook so it's a much stronger, stouter hook now. So if you want to fish it on braid or super heavy cover, you don't even have to worry about it. You can skip it, and if it hits something, you're not going to have an issue, which is great. But for me, it's just a fun bait to fish. I can put a fluke on the back of here. I can put a Dolive stick, which is what I usually put on the back, and just chuck and wind and go, cover a ton of water. The fish, when they bite it, are usually really aggressive, so it's a fun bite. But it's just a great way to catch fish, especially if there's aquatic vegetation, or again, fishing those shallower flats, those shallower areas where those fish move up to get the warmth. I love the Bladewaker.
It's a dope one.
It is.
Bladewaker's fun.
Yeah.
And it goes through cover amazingly.
It does.
I know everybody talks about, bladed jigs like ripping them through the grass, but a lot of them are so hard to get through the grass. This one won't even catch the grass.
Right.
It's just going to go through it.
You literally feel it kind of coming, and instead of it bogging down, it kind of almost sits.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of comes right out.
Yep.
So it's a great one. If you guys haven't added it to your arsenal, I think you guys would love it, especially if your fish move up shallow this time of the year. So there you go. Number 2 for me, Teckel Bladewaker.
Great.
All right. What's next for you, man?
Next for me is going to be the free rig.
Okay.
And you know that I love the beaver, right? I don't think there's any other bait on
I think
a
we
free-
all love the beaver.
Yeah. There's no other bait
Am I
on
right,
a free
Jeff?
rig. Fucking beaver.
Cut.
What? What do you mean cut? We're just getting the big beavers.
You know, Griff was really trying to break it down for us, and you had to.
Sorry,
interrupt him.
guy. Yeah, here, continue.
Thank you.
You got beaver on the mind, Jeff. Let me wiggle my fingers and make beavers appear everywhere.
Good lord.
Oh god. Beaver. Hell yeah.
Oh yeah. End of story. Mic
Yeah.
drop. Whoop.
That's all you gotta know,
Okay,
right?
strip club.
Oh god.
For now.
All right, sorry I was so rude. Carry on.
It's all
Sorry.
right. There's no other bait that's better than on a free rig than a beaver, and we all know this, right?
Agreed.
It works everywhere in the country.
Yep.
Works in almost any fucking water temperature. It works in any situation. It's fun to fish. It's not like boring. It's fun.
It's a much. What is it about the free rig that's so much more fun to fish than a drop shot? Is it the pace?
It's a mindset.
Okay.
The mindset's in there because you know you're gonna get bit on a drop shot. You know you're gonna get bit on a beaver, right? But just like you know what it looks like, so you're like every time you move it, you're imagining like, oh, there's that.
Maybe that's what it is. It's more enjoyable to use.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're like a drop shot's like this.
You look at me like we're crazy, Jeff. I'm telling you. I mean, I'll use a drop shot if that's what they're gonna eat, but I mean, I'd rather go eat tacos. This is fun. I don't know why you're laughing. You disagree? Oh, wise one, please
No,
share.
This is good.
I know.
This is really good.
Are you done?
I'm done.
That's all the beaver combo we're gonna have?
Yeah.
All right, beavers. 2 thumbs up. Jeff,
What do you have?
me?
Yeah, what you got?
I mean, who cares after the beaver?
Oh, that's it.
All right. So I'm gonna talk about some soft plastics too. So I was actually going to say the free rig. I was torn between the free rig and what I'm gonna talk about. But when I saw you were putting the beaver up, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go the other direction. So, you know, everybody in the spring of the year that hasn't fished for 6 months can put a Senko on and catch a bass in pretty much every body of water.
Yes.
So, in fact, it's probably the only lure we need to sell. And everybody in the world could catch bass and all would be well. It would be simple. All you need is some junky ass rod, a pack of 5-inch Senkos, and everyone's going to do just fine. But getting back to this, some things are fun and some things just, I'd rather go eat tacos. Senko is not the most fun way to fish for me.
Yeah. I'd rather stab myself in the face.
So I can get a very similar action from a Senko with much more fun ways of doing it. So I couldn't decide for me between a Sakamata Shad and a Dolive Fat. Sakamata probably is where I would go, but you know, a fluke style bait is super popular in early spring, and a Senko is super popular. And the Sakamata and the Dolive Stick Fat both kind of are hybrids of those two things. So for me, I like these baits because I could rig it on a Texas rig just like a Senko, but unlike a Senko, I can fish this really fast. Okay. So if I'm fishing around trees, if I'm fishing around grass, if I'm fishing around places where there's some targets, I can use this, I can twitch it just like a jerkbait relatively quick, but then as it pauses, these stabilizer fins up here actually allow it to kind of fall in a horizontal fashion versus if you did this with a normal, like say super fluke, you twitch it and then you kill it and it just kind of spirals and just kind of falls, right? Where this kind of maintains that kind of horizontal movement. What this does better than something like, say, a D-Shad, right, that's designed to kind of have that horizontal fall, is that if I want to now, I can fish this just like a swim bait and wind it in, and as it swims, it's going to have a really natural kind of shimmy to it so that I can speed it up in between bushes and then let it fall and then speed it up and let it fall. I can twitch it and then let it fall. It's just got a ton of versatility, and a lot like what you were talking about by using the gong to test the aggressiveness of the fish in your area. And kind of do the same thing with this bait. So I can fish it slow, I can fish it fast, I can kill it, I can burn it, I can do so many different things and really get a true sense of what's happening. Right? So that's generally why I go here. If I know they're going to be kind of lazy and not chase something down, then I can go with a Dolive Stick Fat. I like this because it falls similar to a Senko, but faster. So I'm not waiting forever for that thing to sink down into the tree, right? But generally speaking, if I know they're on bait, I like the Sakamata Shad. I like the heavyweight versions just because it gets it done quicker.
Yeah.
You know, everything just happens a little bit faster with the heavyweight. It's just a little denser salt. But if you guys are fishing super shallow, you could just get the normal version and accomplish the same thing. But 6-inch, 7-inch size for me are kind of the keys. If you're living in an area where they got, I don't know, golden shiners, big thread fins, maybe blueback herring, something like that, you might want to go to the 8-inch. If you're fishing ponds, maybe go with the 4 or the 5-inch if you need to downsize. But I really like the 7. I think the 7's kind of the best blend, but the 6 is a good one as well, and kind of maybe more a universal size. So for me, that's just a great one this time of the year when they first start to move up.
So I'm gonna go with the Dolive stick for my next one. Also,
That's an excellent choice.
I'm
sir.
just gonna fish it a
Copycat.
little bit differently. So I'm gonna fish it more of a soft jerkbait, but I'm just gonna nose hook it. So I'm not gonna put the hook in there. I'm gonna nose hook it because I'm gonna be moving it a lot more violently, a little bit more aggressive.
Okay.
Not a lot of pauses in it. I'm gonna cast it into cover, just work it out of there, quick pause, and then keep on working it back.
Okay.
I think the Dolive stick and the blue label Dolive stick,
Yep.
with all that salt in there,
Yep.
it acts perfect for me.
Okay.
So this one right here, a size 1, like a shot rig
Okay.
nose hook, and just rip it out there.
Do you usually use a CPS spring in the front to help anchor it, or do you just going for it and don't care if the bait tears in the front?
So I don't normally have a problem with the bait tearing until you catch a fish.
Okay.
So, and when I switch to something like this, I'm not paying that much of attention to it.
Okay.
I'm just hooking it and going. I'm trying
Okay.
to fish, like I'm trying to get the bait out there.
Okay.
So-
So if you are concerned, I mean, I guess one of the advantages of working here is we don't concern ourselves as much as maybe some other people on
Yeah.
baits tearing, because we'll just go get some more baits.
Yeah.
Right? But if you are concerned, you know, with a nose hook type thing like that in your bait tearing, simply by putting a CPS spring in the front and then hooking it through there, you'll get a lot more life out of your bait. But this is a great bait for doing that.
Oh, yeah.
This is another bait that's got a ton of versatility to it, you know?
Yeah. So, you know, I always talk about the Dolive theory. Like anything that has a Dolive in it, you can do a ton of stuff with.
Yeah.
They're great
They're gonna
baits,
eat it.
and they catch a ton of fish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good choice, sir. And a great color, I should add.
Yeah. Fred works.
Yeah.
They like Fred.
Fred's the deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, then for me, I'm generally dropping down to the bottom. So typically, if I'm fishing a place where the fish are really moving up,
Okay.
what we've already covered, dude, we're catching them on that.
Oh, yeah.
Between what you just talked about and I talked about, dude, we're jacking them. But we don't always get to fish these great places. Maybe we're stuck at a place like Pleasant, or maybe we're stuck at a place like Havasu, and they should be shallow, but a cold front came through and they pulled off, right? So I think this is an amazing time to catch a really big sack of fish if you can find those areas where they will hold to moving in and out, right? So, I mean, fish are going to start seeking out these big areas of warm water, right? Whether it's the back of a cove, back of a creek arm, a big flat. But if you can find those little transition areas that hold them on their way to there and on their way back from there, this can be the time of the year over the next couple of months where you guys can absolutely sack them. I mean, you can destroy them, because then you have two groups of fish that are gravitating to the same area. Maybe it's a point, maybe it's a ditch, maybe it's a rock pile. Like the last key piece of structure before it's spawn time is what I'm looking for. And it's going to take a lot of dissecting. Maybe it's just a big tree, right? If you guys are fortunate enough to have, you know, forward-facing sonar and all these crazy electronics, you could probably find these areas pretty easy. But if you're more old school, it's just going to take some trial and error and, you know, fishing a few places until you find them. For me, there's a couple baits that are just critical, and I'm going to start right here. So a deep spinnerbait. Now, we talk about spinnerbaits a lot. We throw spinnerbaits a lot. But this is the time of the year that I will incorporate a deep spinnerbait. So I'm looking for something like a 1 ounce or a 3/4 ounce, something that is A, heavy, but B, designed in a way to where it's going to maintain its depth. I don't want to take this, throw it out there into 30 feet, let it sink to the bottom, start winding it, and then it's going to come up. I want that thing to stay down deep. I want it to be dragging on the structure, dragging on the rocks. I'm really trying to fish this at the bottom, because that's where those fish are chilling before they finally make their commitment. So these are two spinnerbaits that I love for this technique. The Megabass SV-3 spinnerbait has definitely become one of my favorites. It's designed with, they call it a drop and delta balancing head, right, on the back of their package. But basically, it's just a very unique shaped head where all the weight is kind of at the bottom, and the blades are very, very thin. So what that does is it forces the bait down, and it's constantly keeled and being pulled down. So it's just a great one for working, you know, the deeper depths. The High Pitcher is another great one from OSP if you get them in the heavier sizes, the 5/8 or the 1 ounce. What's nice about the High Pitcher is that you get a very compact body. SV-3 is compact, and the High Pitcher is even more compact. So you get a really small body, but in a true, like that's a 1 ounce spinnerbait. So you can put this thing down, and even if they're fishing on small bait and small profile stuff, you can still match without having to go to a ginormous bait with huge blades and all that kind of stuff. So either of these would be great options if you guys are targeting structure in that 20, 30, 35 foot zone. A deep spinnerbait can be a great one.
And last for me, I'm gonna go with a 110 Junior.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
I'm fishing shallow. I don't need the bait to go very deep. You know, this thing I can get it to like 3.5 feet. And then one thing about this is my water temperature is never warm enough or never cold enough for the bait to suspend.
Okay.
So it's going to float.
Okay.
So-
Talk about that for a minute, because that's a very confusing topic for a lot of people. A lot of people buy a suspending bait, and they get frustrated when it either sinks or floats.
Yeah.
Talk really quick about that.
So your water temperature, these things are tuned at a specific temperature.
Yes.
Right? They're going to suspend, I think it was like 55 degrees for Megabass, somewhere near there.
Yep.
Right? So they're going to suspend once the water gets to that temperature, but the warmer the water, it's going to float. The colder the water, it's going to sink. So it's very, very like sensitive to the water temperatures.
Okay.
So, and that's how it works. Like if you know that, then you're going to know how to use the bait in certain situations.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So why the junior size instead of the regular size?
I just throw this because of the depth.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you find that this one stays shallower
Yeah.
than the full size one.
Yep.
Okay. Colors, does that play a role for you?
That's the only color I throw.
So you've got this down to a science
Yeah.
now. All right.
GP stain reaction, with or without the orange bottom.
Okay.
But as long as it's that white tone,
Okay.
they're eating it.
Do you think, is this like an early spring thing for you, or this is anytime you're throwing this bait for you?
Yeah. So this is early spring to like summer. Once summer hits, I put away my jerkbaits.
Okay. All right. So anytime you're throwing this guy, it's this color.
Yes.
Is this a shad thing, or this is just a confidence where you?
I just learned that this is the color they eat the most,
Okay.
so that's what I throw.
All right. Easy.
There's no
Easy
science
enough.
in my decision.
Yeah.
It's just,
All right. If they eat it, you use it.
Yeah.
I love it.
yeah.
All right. Okay, and then finally for me, I'm right back on the bottom again. This is just an amazing time of the year to catch them on a lipless. Now, there's so many different things you can do with a lipless, so many different lipless baits out there. I mean, every brand has a lipless. They all do different things. A lot of guys will utilize a lipless in places like Florida or down the south where they're kind of ripping out of grass. For me, I'm using this almost the same way that I'm using my deep spinnerbait. I'm using this as a bottom probing tool. So I'm looking for those deeper areas that maybe aren't quite as deep as what I was doing with the spinnerbait. So maybe it's a shallower lake that just has a little ditch, or maybe they've moved off just off a break. So I'm looking in that 10 to 20 foot zone. That's where I'm going to incorporate the lipless. And if I'm fishing a bigger body of water, it's almost always for me the LV500. Now, this is a time of the year that I keep my color selection very, very simple. I'm pretty complicated in my colors, as you know.
Yeah.
But every time we go fishing, it's like 1,700 baskets of different colors. But it's actually probably one of the easier times of the year to fine-tune your colors. For me, if it's a place that eats red, you better be throwing red. So it's spring craw or teal craw, right? If you're in a place that's super clear and very natural, then this is the time of the year that I go with just a really natural color. This is where ghost minnow shines. So ghost minnow, aurora ghost wakasagi, something that's just very, very lifelike, and then something that's red. That's basically all you need this time of year. Now, maybe you live in some place where they eat something weird like chartreuse or, you know, I don't know, whatever they may be eating in your pond. But for me, it's these two colors. Now, if I'm going to a pond or smaller body of water, I'm looking for the same thing. Even if I'm fishing like a little urban pond, I'm looking for where it's just all flat, 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 and then maybe there's just a little dip, little ditch, little something. I'm just gonna downsize, and I'll go to like the LV45 or the LV50. Same colors, red, ghost minnow. Keep it super, super simple. All right, guys, that's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
All right, I
There it
liked
is.
your picks there, Guy.
Yeah,
I think you're going to have fun this February.
yeah. It's all about fun.
It is. So, guys, hopefully that was insightful into our madness. If you have any questions on why we chose any of these or how we use them, drop it down below in the comments and we will get to them. Jeff will leave links to all the products, especially those beavers, Jeff.
Beavers.
Yeah, put a big link on the
Okay,
beaver.
yeah.
Okay. All right, if you guys need anything, you know where to reach us. Hopefully some of these baits will be useful for you guys as well in the month of February. Get out there and have a good time, unless you live somewhere up north where you're snowed in, and then, sorry, I got nothing for you guys. So until next time, guys, as always, appreciate the business. Very grateful for the support and the time that you give us. So we will see you guys soon. Peace out.